Hello and welcome to this edition of Icon. I'm Ji Xiaojun, and today I'll be talking to Kyle Johnson, who is always on the road, literally, as he is a perpetual traveler. So what is it like to be always exploring the world? Let's find out. A lot of us have been bitten by the travel bug. We dream of quitting the rat race and opting for a life spent wandering the globe. Yet it takes a lot of courage to leave your home behind and set out to explore the world without a proper itinerary.
This is like really, really thick foliage, a lot of jungles, a lot of like plants, and it's really hard to catch up. They move so fast, it's just incredible.
Known as a global nomad, Kyle Guyue Johnson is someone who has traveled from the fjords of Patagonia to the extreme northeastern tip of Siberia, Chukotskiy. He quit his job with General Electric to pursue a career as a professional backpacker, documenting his adventures while exploring the world. How do you support yourself financially?
This is funny. After 2 years, I really ran out of money. For the last trip, it was in Pakistan. It's getting cold. I'm running out of money, so I should go to Beijing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start a new life.
But for Kyle, life on the road isn't about completing a bucket list. It's about experiencing special moments that accumulate to make his life fulfilling. And here we are, it's all set. Nice to meet you, Kyle.
Nice to meet you, Xiaojun.
So this is like the setting for, I don't know, I mean, this is your setting, right? Your environment. And we just found this place.
Right.
It's almost like a simulation of the real situation we imagine that you would come across all the way on the road.
This is a little bit more luxurious, you know? We got like lawns here, we got like manicure lawns, we got, you know?
So we don't have, you don't have
here, yeah.
But
right.
That's yours.
Yeah, that's
your
my
deal,
tent,
right?
Yeah.
At least there's something new. But what about these?
Yeah, that's my, you know, pot and the gas cooker.
This is on real, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we have vodka in it. Not exactly. But this is something that you would use all the time. And what about in the pack?
Do you want to see it?
Okay.
Okay.
If
right.
possible.
Yeah, sure.
Let me check.
All right. Let's see what I got. Got some little stuff here. Let's see here. We were talking about the water, sticking with water, right? This is something called a life straw. Actually, to be honest, I never used it. So it's like in an emergency, you could, with any water supply, you could put this in a lake or in a river or stream, and then you could suck it out.
There is a filter in it.
Yeah, you could use this to drink some water out of it.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Also have a headlamp. Obviously, camping, I spend a lot of time in the dark, you know. And
protect you from the wild animals?
No.
They're scared of light, right?
They're scared of fire.
Fire?
But light, not so much.
Okay.
But I remember when I was in the Serengeti in Tanzania, you hear a lot of wild animals around. And then I would go brush my teeth, and then I turn on the headlamp. I see like, you know, a few green eyes in the distance.
Wolves.
No, they're not lions. They're actually hyenas. They're very curious.
Okay.
It's because they know you got food around, and they see the lights. Because when you shine on them, the reflection is the green eyes.
So actually, it attracts wild animals instead of scaring them away.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
It's more like a treasure hunt from your pack.
Exactly.
This is also important.
This is like a GPS tracker.
Okay.
Yeah. For example, if I go to a place that doesn't have any cell coverage, doesn't have any communication with the outside world, this sends out GPS signal 10 minutes or every half an hour, so people can keep track of where I am.
Yeah.
And it has this button, the SOS button. So if I'm in serious trouble, I can press this, and somebody, maybe they'll send a helicopter or send somebody to come look for me.
That is important.
Yeah.
Tell me, so what do you call yourself? Traveler?
I don't know these days. I mean, I'm I guess a professional traveler.
Professional traveler.
I'm a documentary filmmaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you chose to do it. You were not somehow forced to do it, right?
Right. Exactly.
So you had a job before this.
Yeah. I worked for General Electric, GE Capital.
What, the huge, big company?
Yeah, it's a big company. Yeah, I did finance for them, and then I found out this is like a.
Where about?
In Connecticut. Yeah.
So what did you complain about? GE, and pay must be good.
Because when I was working there, I could see what my life is like for the next 50 years.
stable is not the word you're looking for.
Yeah, I think especially when I was like 22, 23, 24, I knew I wasn't really into finance. It wasn't for me. I wanted to do something more creative.
Okay.
And I wanted to take that time off before I start a new career. I wanted to like escape from the reality, I guess.
Okay.
You know?
Escape from reality.
Yeah, escape from the 9 to 5, you know, the paying back tuitions.
Yeah, it's good for you. At the time, it was still 9 to 5, and now it's 996.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, I was in 9 to 5, but back in those times, because you're working in finance, it's pretty much like 995, 996.
Yeah, maybe to be creative in finance, meaning you would have to manipulate those numbers, which is a crime.
Yeah.
But to make a decision is one thing. To actually do it, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
So when you decided to do this, and where did you choose as your first destination?
So first of all, I had to quit my job, and I had to sell like my car and sell my furnitures, and pretty much I just, you know, had a backpack.
So that's for real, huh?
Yeah, it's for real, right? Yeah. And then I started off in New Zealand because this was like in November, right? October, November time.
Right.
So on the southern hemisphere is summertime. So I started there, and I didn't realize how expensive, you know, for example, bus tickets are. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try hitchhiking to save some money. It took a lot of courage to raise that thumb or write a sign, put on the street and then on the road and no one's stopping. You know, you kind of like telling yourself like, what am I doing? You know, it's kind of embarrassing to ask for help. But then I remember this lady, she was in her 50s. She stopped. She gave me a ride. I was like so happy, right? And then she said, hey, I used to hitchhike when I was young. You know, I have 2 sons and they travel around the world and totally understand where you're coming from. So I was like, wow, you know, I get to meet these really kind people through hitchhiking, and they would tell me their stories. They would tell me about the local places. Traveling is, I get to meet people who share similar values as I, but they have different lives. They have different ways of seeing the world, and it just became my classroom in a way.
To some extent, you didn't really know what to expect on the road. So what did you have in your mind, say, what kind of life awaits you at the time? Yeah,
it was really hard. I mean, I thought I ended up spending 2 years traveling and working around the world.
Working meaning?
Just because
bartending, you know, or what?
Yeah, so this is funny. While I was traveling, after like about 10 months, you know, like my bank account was running low.
Exactly.
Yeah, and my friends was getting married in Hawaii, so I went there for a wedding. I didn't have money to get out of there, so I ended up working like in a restaurant as a busboy. I remember applying for a job at Starbucks, and then I put on my resume and how much I made before. And then the manager's like, hey, you know, we're hiring at the headquarters in Hawaii. You know, you can, with your experience, maybe you can get a job there. But I just want to go work part-time and go surfing. So at that time I was like, nah, I just want something I don't have to use my brain so much.
Yeah. But the process itself, actually, it's also it takes a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. After 2 years, I really ran out of money. The last trip, it was in Pakistan. It was November. I crossed the Karakoram Highway to Punjab Pass to the Chinese side. It was snowing already. I had about maybe less than $1,000 in my bank account. I was like, it's cold, you know, it's getting cold. I'm running out of money, so I should
buy some
go to
coat.
Beijing.
Yeah. Okay.
I had to go to Beijing. Took like a 40-hour train ride to Beijing from Kashgar, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start a new life, pretty much. Yeah.
Because of financial drain.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Exactly. I mean, it's almost like ideal to live a life like that. It's all free. But in the end, it would just come back to the reality side. So how are you going to support yourself? Yeah.
After 2 years, I decided to come back to China. You know, because I was born in China. I grew up in China until I was about 10. I wanted to go to film school in Beijing. Beijing Film Academy, they have this program. I always liked something more creative. So that was kind of like my plan. Before the school started, I got this chance. At that time, there's this Hollywood film called The Kite Runner.
Okay, yeah.
It was
about Afghanistan.
About Afghanistan, but it was obviously it was going to be too dangerous to film in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So they ended up filming in Kashgar and in Xinjiang.
Okay.
And at that time, they were hiring, right? I didn't have any film experience. I had a friend who worked there. She said, "You just make up something." I said, "Yeah, okay, yeah, I worked on films before, sure." They needed bilingual, like set PAs, like production.
Bilingual, no problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then next thing you know, I was on a flight to Kashgar, and then I was on the film set, with all these Hollywood, big shots.
It's almost like your traveling mode is coming back.
Yeah, exactly, right, yeah, in Kashgar, yeah. That's how I realized I didn't want to do feature films because it's like 100 people, it's a creative work, very hard to get noticed. You have to work in this industry for many years to get to the top. So I was like, maybe I want more creative control. I like traveling. I like to make some videos. Chinese travel channel.
Satellite TV.
Yeah. They have this program where, I could go traveling. Obviously, they're not going to pay me. I'm just going traveling. I'm sure I asked the travel channel, I said, hey, can you lend me a camera, video camera. At that time, it was still like this big. It was like on video cassettes, these mini video cassettes. I was doing like a travelogue. Okay. But this was before YouTube. It was 2008.
Yeah, before mobile phones.
Exactly.
Before iPhones.
Before iPhones, before even the travel blogger or video blogger even existed. Yeah. And I started doing that. So that was kind of like my start to making these travel documentaries.
So that's like the perfect combination for you to be able to travel, but at the same time you'll be able to do some creative work.
Yeah, that was a start, but it was a very difficult start because I had to work in other jobs to support this hobby at first, because it's really difficult to, you can't get sponsors. The channels itself pays very, very little for whatever you give them. So we did this in 2009. My girlfriend at that time, she was German, so she moved back to Berlin. And then I've always really wanted to travel through China, Central Asia to Europe. So 2009, I was like, I told Ilka, and then I told her I'm gonna see you, but just wait for a while.
Takes time.
Yeah, it's gonna be like 3 months, something like that. Yeah. But I didn't have a lot of money, so I was gonna say I'm gonna hitchhike.
You didn't have the budget.
Yeah.
You had the time.
I had the time, yeah.
And then you just decided to go like that.
Yeah, and I asked a bunch of friends who wanted to go with me.
It's like, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, hitchhiking? I had to explain the idea because in China it didn't really exist. It existed at that time, right? Yeah. What's that? Good? So fortunately, there was a friend who happened to be a documentary director and cameraman, and he was up for the idea with it. So then I was like, hey, do you want to spend 3 months, spend your own money, and then we're going to go from Beijing to Berlin, and I have no idea how we're going to get there if we can't get there by hitchhiking, but we'll try it, So he's like, yeah, sure, why not?
It's not like these days. I mean, these days, if you talk to a friend about this, probably it'll be, they would accept this idea.
Right.
But in those early days, I guess, it was the idea of hitchhiking was not quite, popular yet at the time.
Yeah. In China, I remember our first day, we couldn't even get out of Beijing.
By hitchhiking.
Yeah.
People were, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. We were standing there was a freeway, right, towards Shijiazhuang.
Okay, yeah.
There was a toll gate. We were like, okay, the toll gate, they'll stop a little bit, maybe we'll get their attention. And then people were just staring at us, like, what are you doing?
Two homeless people?
Big backpacks. And then we wrote a sign, we got like a cardboard, we wrote a sign like Baoding, or Shijiazhuang, and then they were looking at us. And then I remember there was the police at the toll gate. He kind of kicked us out. He was like, you can't just stand here.
So did you finally?
We couldn't hitchhike there. I had to call a friend. I had to call
hitchhike your friend.
Yeah. I was like, hey, are you free right now?
Give me a ride.
Yeah, I saw on the map that said there's a service station, there's a gas station like about, 20 kilometers on the highway. So can you take us from the toll gate to there? So she's like, yeah, okay. And I remember it took her like 2 hours to get to us because she had to like put on makeup and all this stuff. And we were just like waiting on the side of the road, and the police like, when are you going to leave, right? And I'm like, yeah, my friends are coming.
Yeah, just take some time to make up.
Yeah. She finally took us to this gas station, right? And that time we were just kind of like asking whoever stopped at the gas station to fill up. And then we were saying, hey, look, you know, we're just want to get a ride. We're good people. You know, here's a passport, you know, if you want to take a photo of it. And I remember there was a service attendant, and he saw us. And he was a really nice guy. He's a young guy. He kind of helped us, you know, to convince this guy, middle-aged guy, to say, hey, you know, help him out. Just give him a ride.
It could be dangerous to them to take like two guys.
Yeah.
So what would you consider as the most difficult part in your life, traveling life?
I have so many experiences, you know. For example, like I just got back from this Arctic region of Russia. It was pretty hard sometimes, you know, really hard. And
Siberia.
Further.
Even
it's
further.
like this area is called Chukotskiy. You know, I couldn't even spell it.
So it's somewhere.
The furthest, I guess, state or autonomous region of Russia. It's across the street from the Bering Strait from Alaska.
Wow.
So basically, it's on the north side is Arctic, on the south side is the, you know, the Pacific Ocean, the Bering Strait.
It's a no man's zone.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you want to do that?
Yeah. I mean, I was just curious, you know.
Do you sometimes ask yourself this question?
Yeah. Before the trip, and sometimes at the beginning of the trip, I'm asking this a lot, you know, like, this is not pleasant, you know. I could be in Beijing, I could be...
This is comfortable?
This is comfortable. I could be sipping on a beer, you know, eating some, you know, barbecues or something. This is nice, right? Why am I doing this? And then it's usually like, maybe sometimes in the middle of the trip, I realize, for example, there's just fantastic, beautiful scenery. Very few people has been there before. And I was like, I'm so lucky to see this, you know, in person, you know.
To see the world, to see people,
to see the world.
Experience.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
I mean, you just showed me some pictures that you took from the trip you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Beautiful pictures. I couldn't imagine that one day I would be there. Now, I won't be able, actually, for my life to see those pictures in person.
I think that's kind of like what keeps me going.
Tell me one. The craziest, you know, the craziest out of the craziest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for example, geographically, this is the craziest trip because me and this Russian guy, we didn't have any backup. There was no cell phone coverage, you know, and if something happens, we'll be in trouble, right?
You have the GPS tracker.
Yeah, we have the tracker, but you know,
it's still a long way, right?
Exactly. Never press the SOS button. I don't know when they will come and rescue us. We did quite a few trips. I remember 3 years ago. I was really fascinated by this BBC show. Really primitive tribes, you know, that live in New Guinea. You know, it's like Indonesian part of New Guinea on the island. And I remember it took us about a week, like 4 different plane rides, including like a small little plane, 1 day boat ride through different rivers, and then like several days trekking into the pure rainforest, like never been touched rainforest. We got to see these tribes that pretty much still live in the Stone Age, you know. They hunted for their food, you know, they scavenged some like bugs to eat and sago plants. Everything they had on them is pretty much they made by themselves. So they're very self-sufficient. And they lived in these tree houses they built. And some of these tree houses are like 30 meters up in the air.
They would just climb the trees.
And they would just climb the trees, you know. It was kind of like a fairy tale. And these ladders are made just out of plants, you know, fiber. So there was difficult because the conditions are very different. It was very, very hot. There are mosquitoes, malaria, there are leeches, there are poisonous snakes. Every day when we were trekking to find them, there was no road, you know. It was just, you're trekking through, sometimes through like swamps. Crossing rivers, you know, sometimes it was just like a piece of timber. And you have to like make sure that you don't fall into the river.
You have the pole
No, like that.
to keep the balance.
Oh, no. At first it was like really slow, you know, to go through them.
Crawling over.
Yeah. So, and then you're like hundreds of kilometers away from civilization. So that was also very challenging.
Did they target you as a hunt?
Yeah.
Because basically to them, you were like, you know, who are these people?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, they've seen people outside, people.
They have?
Yeah, most of them seen some, but they still live in a very primitive way. But, I mean, we have to go through, like, the relatives that live somewhat modern. You know, they live near the river.
There was that connection.
Yeah, exactly. So they all know each other. Otherwise, like, we want to go further in to, like, where they, you know, really see any outsiders. But even to the villagers, you know, our trackers, our guides, they don't dare to go to any villages that they never met, because even 10 years ago, there was still a lot of tribal warfare, and there was still cannibalism before. So it's still a very wild country, you know. There's no law, there's no police, there's none of that.
So these are the bow and arrows that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really sharp.
Yeah. As you see, there's none of the modern materials.
No.
I mean, this is like, I don't know, bamboo or something, you know, and that's wood.
Is it possible?
Yeah, you can try it, yeah.
Is it all right?
Yeah, I mean, you need, it's hard, right?
I know. I can't let it go.
So
and they use this to hunt.
Yeah. So this is interesting, right? I mean, unfortunately, I broke the tip. So what do you think this is made of?
I don't know, something like bamboo? No?
No. This is made of the cassowary. It's a kind of like an ostrich. It's a huge, like a 1.5 meter type of bird. It's a flightless bird. And it's a shin bone. It's like one of the leg shin bone out of a cassowary.
It's bone?
Yeah. So
not even close.
Some of the other ones they have is just pure wood. But they said, you know, when they used to fight among each other, they used to use this to like shoot people. You know, the bigger mammals. They shoot wild boars with this as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Everything is just made by hand. I remember I was just watching one of the men that, you know, they just spend a lot of time just making that.
If you hadn't been there, you wouldn't have actually the chance to see people using that against other people, which is a tragedy. But, I mean, that's what life was like. Yeah.
When we were going hunting with them for the boars, it was really it's really dangerous animal actually. It's got big teeth and they could bite people, and it's got a very powerful bite. I remember when they had dogs, right, to hunt down the boar and then to surround the boar, and then I was just trying to chase after them. This is like really, really thick foliage, a lot of jungles, a lot of like plants, and it's really hard to catch up with them. They move so fast. It's just incredible. And then we surrounded this boar, and they would just, you know, they would like half climb on a little tree, because once a boar comes, you know, they would just go up the tree as a self-defense, and they would just fire their arrows at it. And it took 5 arrows, and they had these arrows where that's the difference. They have these metallic tips, which they get from the outside world, and they finally killed this boar. You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
5 arrows.
5 arrows.
And that's it.
Yeah, and then they stick 2 of the arrows on the ground. It's a form of thank you to the forest god.
They have their own rituals.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I could only imagine seeing that in movies. I guess when you were there, it's so surreal.
That's why just, you know, it's amazing how, you know, our world is so diverse still, you know, and still have people who are living the way that maybe our ancestors lived like 10, 20,000 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're still in the 21st century living in a way like that.
Yeah.
So how many countries have you been to so far?
I think about 90-something.
You've covered China?
I've been to a lot of provinces. I've been to a lot of cities. But China is also so amazing.
Massive, so
it's
big.
Massive. And there's so many places that outside the tourist sites, which are amazing. You know, which unless you're local, you don't know about really.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's why when you say, have you seen China? I say, not really, because there's so many beautiful places that we haven't discovered.
Again, if you come back, how do you support yourself financially?
Yeah, so that's always kind of like the, the million-dollar question. And it's really hard because, for example, the television stations don't really pay a lot. They can't really support the trip, not even the expenses. So I would try to get sponsors, and that's always hit or miss. Every year is very different. I have a very small travel club or travel tour company where I take like 8 to 10 people to different parts of the world, and I take mostly Chinese clients. I take them to these places where I think it's really special. So here and there, definitely I'm not rich.
If you have a club, that could be good business.
I'm doing this, but only as part-time.
It's only a side job to keep you doing what you're now doing, but you don't want to take it over from you.
I want to keep my life simple. I want the freedom to do whatever I want.
Can you keep it simple as long as you want, or there's one day that you would just go back to your GE lifestyle?
No, I think they will never take me back after this video.
I mean the routines.
Yeah, the routines. I think for me right now, I've been traveling on and off since, for 20-some years, right? I'm 40 this year. I have a little bit of a dream of maybe buying a piece of land somewhere in the Southeast Asia, some island, tropical island, because I love surfing. Maybe I'll buy a piece of land, I'll build like a little house or a little small hotel or something. I'll spend half of my time there.
Half the time, keep traveling.
In traveling, or or in Beijing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's when I slow down my pace, and I'll do that. Yeah.
But to stay overnight in a tent like that, say in a no-man's zone, in the Arctic or Antarctica, do you feel a little lonely?
Short term, like for a month, not so much.
They're both anyway.
Yeah. I'm always worried about, for example, we're in the Russian part of the Arctic. I'm worried about bears, So
you have the arrows.
Yeah. So I'm holding like a firecracker. I'm like, okay, I hope the bears don't come visit me.
So where's next in your plan?
I want to travel at the border of China, outside of China. Let's say from Russia, from Vladivostok, I'll go around like Mongolia and Central Asia and Pakistan, India, and Myanmar and Laos. And I really want to understand what our neighbors, how they see us, and what our interactions are like.
Wow. So it's almost like you're taking another look at ourselves, but from a different angle.
Yeah.
From the outside.
Yeah. Because I see, like us, so many people go to Europe or go to the U.S. to travel. But if you ask them, who are our neighbors, how many people can list all of our neighbors, from geographically, right? I've been to a lot of those countries, but I want to dig deeper into it. I want to understand these people's lives, I want to hear their stories, I think. Yeah.
You're almost getting philosophical now in traveling.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
it's a huge project.
Yeah.
And we look forward to hearing more stories from that trip then.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm looking forward.
Thank you for sharing the stories, and all the best.
Yeah, thank you very much.